The bank manager's face went paper white. Not surprised, not confused, terrified. His hands actually shook as he reached for the phone and said, quietly but urgently, "Lock the front doors." Then, without taking his eyes off me, he called, "Call the police now." He stared at what I'd placed on his desk like I'd handed him a live grenade, not my dead grandfather's old passbook. And the sick part? My mom had thrown that same passbook in the trash the day before, calling it worthless junk that should have been buried with him. Turns out, some secrets don't stay in graves. Some secrets have teeth. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, treated like you're too emotional or too dramatic just because you ask questions, hit like, subscribe, and settle in. Because the ending of this story, it's the kind of justice that makes you sit back and whisper, "Good." My name is Harper Lane. I'm 31 years old, and until that week, the most exciting part of my life was arguing with my landlord about the radiator in my apartment that hissed like a snake and still didn't produce heat. I worked as a paralegal at a small law firm in Columbus, Ohio. The work wasn't glamorous, the pay wasn't great, and my car was 12 years old and made a noise like a dying whale every time I turned left. But I was good at my job. Not because I was smarter than everyone else, because I noticed things. I noticed when people avoided a question, when their stories didn't match, when they answered too quickly. I asked follow-ups. I kept receipts. My family always acted like that was a flaw. They called me intense, suspicious, too much. The truth is, they preferred me quiet, because quiet people don't uncover rot. My grandfather, Walter Lane, died on a Tuesday. 89 years old, a quiet farmer in a modest house 2 hours outside the city, wraparound porch, fields that stretched to the horizon, and a study that smelled like old paper and pipe tobacco, even though he'd stopped smoking decades ago. Everyone assumed he had nothing, and I mean everyone, especially my mother. My mother, Celeste, organized the funeral the way she organized everything, like a corporate meeting. 30 minutes for the service, 45 minutes for the reception, then everyone goes home. No lingering, no messy tears, no unnecessary emotion. She didn't even choose flowers that meant anything, just cheap arrangements that looked like they were designed to survive a dentist's waiting room. My brother Grant showed up 40 minutes late in a suit cost more than my car and claimed parking was hard. We were on a farm. There was a gravel lot the size of a football field. But sure, Grant, parking. He hugged our mother, shook hands, checked his phone like he was monitoring stocks and people at the same time. Grant was good at emotions that benefited him. Anything else, he treated like a chore. Walter Lane wasn't flashy, but he wasn't stupid. He was an accountant for 40 years before he retired. Numbers were his language. He could look at a spreadsheet and see a story hiding between the columns. He also played chess, and he was good. He taught me when I was 7, sitting on that porch with lemonade sweating in the heat and a chessboard between us. He used to tell me chess wasn't about what you captured. It's about the position you created, the trap you set, the patience to wait for someone arrogant enough to think they'd already won. He had one saying, always delivered with a calm little half smile. The truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie. I didn't understand it as a kid. I understood it the week he died. 2 weeks before his death, I visited him at the farmhouse. He was weaker. His hands looked thinner, like the skin was loosening its hold, but his eyes were sharp, focused, alive. When I stood to leave, he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. It made my breath catch. He pulled me close, and his voice came out like a whisper carved from stone. "The passbook," he said, "in my study, the chess book." He swallowed, like the words cost him something. Then, "Only you, Harper. Promise me." I didn't know what he meant, but the way he looked at me like he was handing me something heavy made my throat tighten, so I promised. After the service, Celeste and Grant went back to the farmhouse like they were touring a property they already owned. My mother walked through rooms talking about selling, buyers, upgrades, square footage. Grant nodded, occasionally adding suggestions with the confidence of someone who had never lifted a finger on that land. It made my stomach turn. The body wasn't even cold, and they were dividing the world like a pie. I slipped away to my grandfather's study. The room felt like him. Old books, dust, the faint ghost of tobacco, a desk with neat drawers. On the shelf, I saw it immediately. A thick chess book, Strategic Endgames, a master's guide, Grandpa's favorite. I pulled it out, and something felt off, too heavy. I opened it. My heart stopped. The pages had been hollowed out. Inside was an old leather passbook, worn edges, vintage look, like it belonged in a museum. I stared at it, confused and curiously honored, like he'd left me a final message. I took it to the living room. My mistake. Celeste saw it before I spoke. She moved fast, too fast. 3 steps and she snatched it out of my hands. Her eyes flicked over it for a half second, then she turned and threw it straight into the kitchen trash like it was contaminated. "This is garbage," she snapped. "Old accounts that don't even exist anymore. Worthless junk." She pointed at me like I was the problem. "Stop digging through his things, Harper. It's not appropriate." Grant laughed from the couch. "Always the sentimental one, huh?" he said. "Let the dead stay dead." Then they exchanged a look, quick, almost invisible, but I saw it. I'd been around liars professionally for years. That look wasn't family grief. It was shared fear. People don't panic over worthless junk. They panic over evidence. That night, I didn't sleep. My mother's reaction kept replaying in my head like an annoying alarm. If it meant nothing, why was she angry? Not dismissive, angry. And why did she need to throw it away immediately? The next morning at 5 a.m., the world still dark and silent, I made a decision. I drove back to the farmhouse. No radio, just my thoughts, pounding. I used Grandpa's spare key under the 3rd porch step. The house felt like it was holding its breath. I went to the kitchen, trash can, bag, and then there I was, 31 years old, college degree, paralegal job, elbow deep in funeral garbage like a raccoon in business casual. I found it near the bottom, under napkins and coffee grounds. When I wiped it clean and opened it, something immediately looked wrong. The account number format didn't match the old style. Too many digits, too modern. Then I found the note tucked into the spine, folded into a tiny square, my grandfather's careful handwriting. Account 77421289. They don't know about this one. Ask for the full history. Trust no one in the family. Only you, Harper. My skin prickled. They don't know, meaning Celeste, meaning Grant. Grandpa hid something from them, and he chose me to find it. I took photos of everything, uploaded them to cloud storage. Documents can burn. Digital backups don't beg for mercy. At 10 a.m., Celeste called. Her voice was sweet, fake sweet, like sugar on spoiled milk. "Just checking on you after yesterday," she said. "Such a hard day." I waited. Then she slid the knife in gently. "You didn't take anything from the farmhouse, did you?" "Everything belongs to the estate now. We need to catalog it properly before sale." I lied smoothly. "Just one chess book, for memories." Pause. I could hear her calculating. Then, "Good, but don't go digging anymore, Harper." Her tone shifted colder. "Your grandfather wasn't himself. His mind was going." My stomach twisted. 2 weeks ago, he looked me in the eye and gave me instructions like a man writing a final check. That wasn't confusion. It was strategy. At 7 p.m., Grant called. Grant hadn't called me in months. Grant checking on me was like a shark offering swimming lessons. He started casual. "Mom said you've been asking about Grandpa's stuff, just making sure you're okay." Then he steered it. "You know he didn't really have much, right? Mom's handling the sale. I'll take care of property stuff. You don't need to worry." Translation, they'd already divided it. Celeste gets money, Grant gets property, and I'm supposed to nod and disappear. Before he hung up, he added, "Let it go, Harper. You know how Mom gets. Not worth the fight." When the call ended, my apartment felt too quiet. 2 calls, 9 hours apart, like they coordinated, like they were checking what I knew. I wrote everything down: time, phrasing, tone. Then I stared at the passbook and whispered, "Tomorrow." The bank was 2 hours in a small town called Millbrook, First Regional Savings, absorbed years ago, but the main branch still existed. I walked in at 9:15 a.m. with the passbook, my ID, Grandpa Walter's death certificate, and proof I was family. I expected maybe a few hundred, maybe closure. The young teller smiled, typed in the number. Her smile died. She excused herself, whispers in the back. 20 minutes passed. I sat in the lobby so long the security guard told me his entire life story. Then a man in an expensive suit appeared.
In his
Professional, neutral
office,
face,
he took the
gray
passbook like
temples.
it might
"I'm
explode.
Martin
His
Holloway,"
hands
he
weren't
said.
steady.
"Regional
He
manager.
sat down
Please
slowly
come
and
with me."
exhaled. "Miss Lane," he said carefully, "this account is flagged in our system." My stomach dropped. Flagged never means anything good. But he continued, "Not because of anything you did, because of its history." He explained the passbook cover was vintage, but the account wasn't. It was opened in 2010, deliberately disguised, untouched for 14 years. Then he wrote a number on paper and slid it across the desk. $2,147,832. The sound I made was half gasp, half laugh, half I might faint. Grandpa Walter, the broke old farmer, had $2 million hidden. But Holloway didn't look happy. He looked worried. "There's more," he said. "In 2015, someone tried to access the account with power of attorney documents. The system flagged signature inconsistencies. Access denied, attempt logged." I swallowed. "Who?" Holloway glanced down. "Celeste Lane. My mother. My mother tried to steal this money 9 years ago. She failed, but she tried." Holloway made calls. People arrived. Security, legal. They pulled records, and the story came out like a skeleton dragged into sunlight. Grandpa Walter had received an inheritance in the 1990s. He invested. He grew it quietly. By 2009, when my dad died and Celeste became Grandpa's caretaker, Walter had over $1 million across accounts. Celeste found them, and over years she drained them, transfer by transfer, withdrawal by withdrawal, using forged documents, manipulation, and control. She stole roughly $1.5 million. Grandpa noticed, but she'd convinced courts he was mentally incompetent. He couldn't stop her, couldn't go to police. No one believes confused old man over devoted daughter-in-law. So he did the only thing he could. He hid what was left. In 2010, he opened this secret account and moved money into it, disguised with a vintage passbook. His lifeboat, his final chess move. Holloway looked at me like he finally understood something about my grandfather. In 2019, he filed a formal complaint with our fraud department, he said. He claimed he was being robbed, but we couldn't proceed without original documentation. He lifted the passbook. This was the evidence he couldn't produce while alive. And then Holloway reached for his phone. "We need law enforcement. This is elder financial abuse." That's when he said it. "Lock the front doors." And the world shifted. 2 hours later, detectives arrived. Financial crimes. The lead was Detective Renee Carter, mid-40s, eyes like a scalpel. She didn't sugarcoat it. "These cases break my heart," she said. "The victim depends on the person hurting them, and when they speak up, nobody believes them." She looked at the passbook. "Your grandfather fought back with evidence, patience, records." 3 days later, I got a call from an older attorney, Arthur Kincaid. He'd been Grandpa Walter's friend for decades. "Walter told me to contact you after he died. Only you." When I arrived at his office, he placed a thick folder on his desk. He built this for years. Inside, copies of forged documents, real signatures versus traced ones, transaction logs in Grandpa's handwriting, a notarized sworn statement, "I am of sound mind," and a line that made my throat close. "I am leaving this evidence for my granddaughter Harper because she is the only one who will do what is right." Then Detective Carter called again. "We found something about your brother," she said. Grant had created a shell company, Garrison Harbor LLC. Over $600,000 laundered through it. He wasn't just benefiting, he was participating. And then the final twist. Celeste had a history. In 2002, her own mother died with savings that mysteriously vanished. Suspected, never proven. Now it made sense. This wasn't a one-time crime. This was her pattern. Detective Carter asked me to stay quiet while they built the case. For 2 weeks, I sat at Celeste's dinner table, smiling politely, while my stomach churned. Celeste talked about selling the farmhouse. Grant bragged about investments. They were so confident, so smug. They thought they'd won. Then Thursday came. Detective Carter called again. "We're executing warrants today. Arrests will be simultaneous." Celeste opened her door in a robop, coffee in hand. She saw badges, and for a split second, her mask slipped. Fear. Real fear. Detective Carter read the charges: fraud, forgery, elder financial abuse, theft. Celeste tried her last trick. "This is a mistake. He was mentally unwell. I was protecting him." Detective Carter didn't blink. "Ma'am, we have years of documentation, bank records, a notarized statement, and a money trail. This isn't a mistake. This is consequences." Celeste was handcuffed and walked out quietly. No screaming, just the quiet death of a long lie. Across town, Grant was arrested in his office, mid-meeting. I wasn't there, but hearing it later, it was satisfying. He went pale, tried to talk his way out, tried to mention lawyers. They cuffed him in front of colleagues. His reputation died right there. The case moved fast. Celeste's lawyer tried to claim Grandpa Walter was incompetent. Prosecution brought doctors. They testified Walter was sharp. The incompetency ruling based on false info provided by Celeste. Grant's lawyer tried to cut a deal. He approached me with a message. Grant wanted an apology, wanted a reduced sentence by blaming Celeste. I stared at him and said, "Tell my brother Grandpa taught me chess. And in chess, you don't negotiate with pawns." No deal. The shell company killed any mercy. Sentencing happened in February. Cold courthouse, wood-paneled walls, flags behind the bench. The prosecutor read Grandpa Walter's statement aloud. When the words filled the room about stolen money and stolen dignity, Celeste stared straight ahead, hands shaking. Grant wouldn't meet my eyes. The judge delivered it. Celeste Lane, 7 years federal prison, plus restitution, plus liquidation of assets. Grant, 3 years federal prison, plus felony record, plus career destroyed. I expected to feel triumph. I felt completion, like the final page of a book. Detective Carter found me in the hallway. "Your grandfather would be proud," she said. "He fought for years. You finished it." 2 days after sentencing, I went back to Arthur Kincaid's office. He had tea ready and a single envelope on his desk, my name written in Grandpa Walter's handwriting. "He wanted you to read this only after everything was resolved," he said. Legally, the hidden $2.1 million was mine. Walter's will named me sole beneficiary. Celeste and Grant were explicitly excluded. Farmhouse sale proceeds came to me. Total inheritance after seizures, about $2.5 million. But the money wasn't what made me shake, it was the letter. "My dearest Harper." He wrote about choosing me because I visited without wanting anything, because I played chess for the game, not the prize, because I asked the questions that made Celeste uncomfortable. Then his line came back, like a hand on my shoulder. "The truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie." I cried in that office, not sad tears, healing tears, the kind that come when you realize someone truly saw you in a family that never did. 6 months later, I quit my job, paid off debts, bought a narrow little storefront downtown with big windows and warm light. I opened a bookshop. I named it Lane and Ledger because Grandpa would have laughed at the accounting pun. In the back corner is a chess table, 2 chairs, pieces always set, waiting. On the wall hangs a framed photo of Grandpa Walter. Next to it, his quote, "The truth is patient. It can wait longer than any lie." Celeste writes letters from prison sometimes. Blame, excuses, demands for forgiveness. I don't respond. Some doors, once closed, stay closed. Grant's wife divorced him. His friends vanished. When he gets out, he'll have a felony and nothing real. They had everything because they stole it. Now they have nothing. And I have peace. Not just money, not just a shop. Peace. Because justice finally landed where it was supposed to. You know what I learned? Some people survive by making you doubt your own eyes. They call you dramatic, emotional, suspicious. But questions aren't weakness. Questions are how truth breathes. And eventually, quietly, patiently, truth always finds a way to bite back. If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, have you ever watched someone get exactly what they deserved? More of the most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now because trust me, the next ending is even better.